I don't know what we can talk about in this nation without talking about white superiority, honestly.
Who defines the meaning of God also defines the relationship between economy and God.
African Americans spent $1.3 trillion last year, making us the 16th wealthiest nation in the world. Why have we not turned those riches into wealth to develop our community?
Peace, family. I am so I'm honored to be hosting the show tonight. I tell you, one of our guests by themselves is just magnificent. So imagine all of these guys backstage. It's great. This is like such a powerhouse full of information. So I cannot wait to introduce everyone. First things first, the HAPI tour. Okay, I want to first give out, peace and blessings to everybody in the chat. I see Michelle, Jewel, DM, Nubai. You guys are always our first cats in the house, so I appreciate you guys. Marcia, we have Anthony Chambers. It's so nice to see you guys. Yes, I agree with Michelle that this is her second home. It's definitely my second home. And Mitchell. You guys, we are finally hitting the road. This is so exciting. When COVID started, we were just like, oh, it'll be over in a month and we'll be able to go ahead and premiere the film and, get on our merry way. But of course, COVID is still here. The pandemic is still here. But we are finally able to hit the streets with the film. For those that don't know, HAPI Talks is just an extension of the documentary HAPI, The Role of Economics in the Development of Civilization. Because we were unable to have our premiere at the Schomburg right at the beginning of the COVID season, we were like, you know what, we'll just interview a couple of the guests until, they work out this COVID thing, and we'll just interview them on YouTube every week. And, probably by summer, we'll be able to go ahead and have the tour. But unbeknownst to us, we were, entering a pandemic. But HAPI Talks, though, sort of just took off by itself. It's its own entity at this point. But everyone that's been in the film has been on HAPI Talks. And so, people forget that we actually have a whole documentary that's 2 hours and 12 minutes. And so, we love seeing you guys on all our social media platforms and you guys support us, but we want to see you in person so that we can have that energy connection that's, that we just can't have when we're, over Zoom. So it's really important if you guys can support us in that. And I'm going to actually show you the dates. We're kicking off in Detroit, my hometown, the D. And we will be in Detroit on Sunday, September 26th. I've already told all my family members, if you're not in the house, you may want to just forget my name. I'm just saying, you guys have got to come out right here. The D, please. We're going to be at the Charles Wright Museum. It's a beautiful space. Please come and join us. Then next we're heading to Philly. Then we're going to be in Houston. We're going to be in DC, and we're going to be in Bridgeport, Connecticut. We are now going to add on Atlanta, most likely, and Tampa. Okay, so if we are not in the city that you are in, please, DM us if you have any contacts to any of the theaters, and we can do the rest. But please make sure you guys come out. It would be so lovely to see the people that we see, showing up every week in HAPI Talks. It'd be so nice to just see you guys in person. So, please, if you can, if you're going to be in a city near you, please come out and support. And also, your ticket gets you access to a panel discussion. And so, in all the cities, we're going to have a panel discussion. We have Professor Browder is going to be at our panel discussion in DC. We have Dr. Wade Nobles, who's going to be in our panel discussion in Houston, and Asar is going to be there. So this is going to be really, just a nice event to come and take your family to. So Happy City Tour, and you can get tickets by hitting our website, which is hapifilm.com. And, definitely, make sure that you're a part of it. All right. So this is exciting. So, we've been talking about our trip to Kemet in February, since I think like the middle of July. And we first, put it out there, and we were telling people it's limited, tickets, and then those sold out really quick. And we came up with a different program so that we could accommodate more people. And in that, coming up with a different program, we decided to do this conference along with Anthony Browder. We talked about it. He gave it a name. It's called One Africa, Returning to the Source. Okay. So in doing this, and we started to add people, that's going to present. And this is going to be so huge, because even though they have been together lots of different places, lots of different times, but in this time right now, in the year 2021, all of these scholars have not been in Africa all together for, this year. So this is going to be great, because they're going to be all together with us, sharing their wisdom and their knowledge in Aswan, Egypt, next year in February. Now, we had a trip, and we kept telling people, like, come on, make sure you sign up. And some people are like, oh, we're gonna wait. And then the next thing we knew, right there, sold out. But don't worry, because we were like, okay, we think we can get a couple more people in. So we have a different program now, which can accommodate a couple more people. But we're telling you that if you are interested in being a part of this, and interested in coming to this conference, you don't want to wait around this time. You can put your deposit in. You can go to ACAT Tours. I'm gonna give you the new dates right here. You can go to ACAT Tours, and the new dates are February 20th through the 28th. This trip is a tad bit shorter, but you're not going to miss anything, because you also get access to this 2-day conference. That's going to be huge. We have so many presenters, and we are still adding some people onto the bill. So it is very important that if you are thinking about doing this, that you put your deposit in, okay? It is, this is a really good priced event, and you will not, trust me, you will be very happy. And I want to give a special shout out to my uncle, who, when he heard about this, he was like, I gotta go. And so he's never been to Africa, and he put his deposit in, and he will be, my Uncle David will be in Egypt to take part in this. So this is so important that you guys just really put this on your mind and think about doing it. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce some of the presenters that we're going to have. This is literally incredible. So we have, first up is Dr. Wade Nobles. We have look at Dr. Wade Nobles. How are you doing? Looking scholarly. We have Dr. Jeffries. We have Professor Small. We have Professor Browder in the house. We have Mfundishi, my teacher. And we have Dr. Jeffries. Yay! Yay! Yes.
Going, Doc.
Yeah, and Asar will be joining us momentarily. So I first want to say thank you guys for all coming on.
So hey, Felicia, bless everybody. Can you mute everybody, because you're getting feedback from someone? So mute everyone who's not speaking.
Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, wow! Look at that.
You got it. That did it. You're good.
All right. Thank you. And I just want to say, just publicly, Professor Browder, your speech at Dr. Runoko Rashidi's homecoming ceremony was beautiful. It was, you know, you inspired us, do Renoko. And I mean, it was great. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I had a chance to say, you know, like right afterwards, I couldn't even talk. I was like, oh my God, this was beautiful. And the only thing I could just say is do Renoko. So thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. But let me just say this in front of everybody. I can't take full credit for that. I was channeling Wade because at ACE's homegoing, Wade urged everybody to do ACER. So I was just paying it forward. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, that was beautiful. Like I was just like, yes, like it just really, you know, sometimes you don't know where you need the energy, but then it comes, you're like, yes. Yeah. So thank you so much. Everyone's feeling that. Thank you. Okay, so family, we're going to tonight, okay, and we're not going to be on here long because, you know, we got a lot of things going on in the world, but we're just going to answer the question, One Africa, returning to the source, and what does that mean to each of our panelists? Okay. And so not everyone's able to stay on at the same time. Like I said, we have these scholars are the most hardworking scholars I know, because they're everywhere. They just pop up everywhere. And so we're going to first start with Dr. Wade Nobles, and he's going to answer that question of One Africa, returning to the source, and what does that mean? Oh, you gotta unmute yourself. I'm sorry.
And I hope she hears me say that, because she is what makes Leonard great. And I need to just put that there. One Africa, return to the source, is a simple proposition that we are now at a place where, because of COVID, the whole world is talking about this idea of a new normal post-corona. But for us, the new normal is the old African way. And so we have to recognize that we're shifting, not only shifting a paradigm, we're shifting our understanding of our consciousness and our identity. And One Africa means that we're not bound by our city-states, our fraternities, our universities. We're bound by the idea of a global Pan-African family that is bound by peoplehood, not statehood. That's the One Africa. And then return to the source, for me, simply means that we return to what is real. And what is real is spirit. It is the power of spirit. So returning to the source is for us to return to the spirit. And in our conversations over, all of us who are on this discussion right now and working with each other, we have been like tuning forks. And the magnetic energy between us was the recognition of the materiality of that invisible spirit. So I think the theme is absolutely appropriate, that we are recognizing that it is our peoplehood, that there's a global African family, and that the essence of that African family is spirit, divine energy. That's One Africa, returning to the source. And I am absolutely looking forward to being there and walking on the now as we did ancient times, as the divine beings that we are.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Nobles. Yeah, I can't wait. This is going to be great. All right, thank you so much. All right, let's see. We have Professor Small. Oh wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I just unmuted you. Oh, wait. Oh. Oh, you know what? You have to actually unmute yourself, because you muted you. So you have to unmute yourself. I can't unmute you.
Okay. Yeah, the thing about being with African men and women, because, you know, Asa had that concept of to be African. I think, Wade, the last time him and I, we were out in Kansas City, and we were preparing the day before for the lecture, but I thought Asa was acting a little bit different, even though he looked fundamentally well. He was acting different, and so I asked him what was going on. He came to help me with my little slide, getting it set up. And he said to me three things, actually, in that ballroom the day before, or the auditorium the day before we spoke. And the first was, and he said this one laughingly, that we were spirits in transition. And that kind of threw me, because it kind of scared me, because it was just a little deep, you know? And he was serious. He said, Brother Small, we're spirits in transition. And then the next thing he says is, you know, you need to make sure that when you speak to the people, you tell them that if we don't win the culture war, the economic and the political war victories won't matter. And so I think both of us asked him kind of like what was up. And he told us he would meet us in the lobby of that hotel that night. But when we got back to the hotel, he said he was going to his room to lie down. You and I stayed in the lobby for a while. And he never came back. So I would see him in Ghana some weeks later, just before he went home to pick up his wife and come back to Kemet. We were in the marketplace in Ghana. And he had that same spirit, like, I'm going. It was almost like you could feel it. And I didn't go to Kemet because I was working on the hotel. So I know Dr. Jeffries would go to Kemet. I would stay in Ghana. And I remember when I got the word when Kwame called me to come into the office and he said he had something that he had to tell me. I actually thought it was Dr. J. Something had happened. And then he told me about Asar had transitioned the night before. And then I remembered we are spirits in transition. Then I got it. I didn't get it in Kansas City, but I got it at that moment, what he was saying. And I got what he was saying when he says, teach the people that the cultural victory, if we don't win the cultural victory, then the economic and political victories won't matter. And he was the first one I heard said much, much earlier on that at the core of culture is a people's spiritual system, or what we call the spiritual system. And that the culture is the education system that teaches the people about that spiritual system. So when we're talking about One Africa and returning to the source, we have to make clear when we were the perfection on the first occasion, when the divine or the universe decided to manifest as a human being, it manifests as an African woman. On that first occasion, that is the most perfect moment in our beingness. And on that same occasion, that woman, with the energy of the totality of the universe, the totality of existence, manifests her son, husband, brother, all at the same time. You can call him Haru, Asar, whatever. But that woman gives birth to that aspect of the universe, which is then the male human being. In the pyramid text, at the end of the dissertation, Tony, I think that piece that Ahmed Ra and you and Abanga and others was involved in, at the end of that dissertation, Amen says, and I came from my mother. First, he opens the dissertation by saying, I created myself out of myself. I called existence to exist so that existing might exist. And when I realized that I existed, my art was at my side. But at the end that he talks about all of the things that he created, and then he expanded in them. But he said at the end of that dissertation, that translation, he says, and I came from my mother, Nun. So if I created myself out of myself, is the opening line, and I came from my mother's Nun, then Amen and Nun is all the same being. It's the universe itself. And so when we talk about returning to the source, to manifest One Africa, because that's the only way you can manifest One Africa, is if you return to the source for what is One Africa. Then we are talking about, again, realizing that we are the divine having the human experience. We are all aspects of that totality of existence, having our peculiar experience. And in each of these experiences, it is moving towards some sort of perfection. Now, in all of our different religions, I don't like that word. Let's throw that word out. I apologize for saying that. And all of our different educational systems to try and explain to ourselves beingness, how to become. We always seem to understand that even when we can see the multiplicities and the aspects, we realize we're still the one. And that everything that proceeds forward from there, that we call economic, political, cultural, social, must come from that perspective, that there is just the one. And everything else is imitation, imitation, innovation, innovation on that one. Because our situation in the world right now, even with this COVID thing, we'll defeat COVID. We've defeated everything that has come at the organism called the African human being over millions of years. We will defeat this. But we won't defeat it if we don't return to the essence of what the African being is. We built temples, we built pyramids, I guess you can call them temples. I don't even like the word temple because I don't think that's what we built. But we built these complexes not only to replicate our understanding conceptually of the universe, but we built complexes in which we could teach ourselves about our discernment and understanding of how that universe works. And so these educational institutions that we call temple, these grand universities, is just an attempt to replicate the grand university. And when we introspect into our body, the real grand temple, then we have to, what do you say when you look outward? Look outward to learn the function of the greater temple in order to make function appropriately this inner temple or the smaller temple that we reside in. And we shed like a shell, like a locust or something at the end of the day when our work in it is done or damage to it is too severe to continue our work. And we have to come back again and reconstruct another space to be. And I don't want to be too esoteric. I wanted to be clear that being African, Wade said it, he said it so simply, is not a place, but it is the only thing that is human is the purity of the thing that is African. Everything else that exists as a human is a mutation off of that original perfection. And so if we're to really talk about restoring, we can't fall short of attempting to know that original perfection, because anything that's short of that is the mutant's perfection, and we are in the midst of mutant perfection now. And we can't beat him at this game. We may think we can, because when he let us play the game, we excel at the game. But the game does not create the divine function in the community of beings. Only our game can create that. Only the original game. Only the original purpose. And that is for each element of the totality was to perfect itself as a part of that totality. You know, like you throw something like the boomerang, you throw it out, no matter how wide it swings and spreads, it comes back to the source of its initial energy thrust. Our initial energy thrust is divine totality, oneness of all things. And no matter how far we go out as this human family, this African being, only when we perfect ourselves as we were before the initial thrust can we come back to the original occasion again. And so when we're talking about returning to the source, we're talking about doing our best to learn the body of wisdom that was left by the ancestors, and all of the writings, and all of the papyrus, and all of the pyramids, and all of the temples, and everything that we can find, because they wrote on sticks and other things too, because this culture did not have its genesis in the Nile Valley. It had its zenith in the Nile Valley. And so we've got to look at its genesis in the Congo, Malawi, and other places in South Africa, and other places that brought it to that crescendo. And we've got to learn that wisdom and teach it in an uncorrupted way. We've got to be careful not to make the mistake of imitating the construct of Judeo-Christian Islamic methodology for trying to impart and embody a body of wisdom. And I feel that we've made that mistake many times along the way in our attempts to try to reconstruct. And so we must go deeply back into the writings of the ancestors and the stories, even the folklore that they tell, and learn from them well enough. So, and I will take a line as I close from a Lebanese who I thought was very conscious. And I started reading him very early in my life. And that was Khalil Gibran. All of his works is good. And The Prophet, which is his classic, I don't think it's his best, but it's the one I want to quote from. And it's just on the occasion when the people, before they realize this is a man dying, and in his dying words, he's passing the wisdom of the universe to those who want it, someone asked him, "Oh, prophet, tell us about children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They come from you or through you, but they do not belong to you. You can give them your dreams, but you can't share in theirs." And when I began to understand our traditional systems, I go like, wow, that man capsulized Africa. When I see the Aloha and the Yoruba, when I see the system of return and the Aka, I go like, when a mother gives birth to a child, she's giving birth to herself. Not a simulated self, but to herself. Not just genetically. The genetic part of it is the least of what she has given birth to. She has given birth to an expansion and an extension and an innovation on her spiritual self. That is her eternity and continuum. And even if you don't have a genetic child, and this is the piece that I've learned, the vibration of thought and comes with the body of energy of love and wisdom, you can recreate yourself as your child and other beings that you share that spiritual energy with. And so I just hope that we are strong enough when we talk about returning to the source, not to be afraid to challenge the standard methodologies of understanding the body wisdom. Not to be afraid. And let it take us where it wants to take us. So that's I'm gonna have to go back to work, but that's what the Spirit put on my plate tonight to share.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that, Professor. Wow. You know, a lot of times I sit here and I listen to you guys, and it, you know, I'm because it's like I'm. Oh, what is going? Wait, hold on. Okay, I tell you, sometimes when I'm listening to you guys, it's like I'm because you guys are saying like so like nuggets of information is that it has to be dissected, and so we'll do the show, and then about right after I go get something to drink, and then I sit down and then I listen to the show again, and it's like I catch more and more of what you said. So I just say thank you. All right, who wants to go next? Anyone? Okay. Mfundishi, you want to answer One Africa, returning to the source. What does that mean to you? Oh, wait. We got to unmute you. Oh, you muted yourself, so I can't do anything.
Okay.
There you go.
Imhotep, Ankh Uja Senebneb, Jhuti Haru Nebu, De Enu, Ankh Uja Senebneb, Anajrak Amen, Anuk Amen, Anajrak Mut, Anuk Mut, Anajrak Kunsu, Anuk Kunsu, Anajrak Asar, Anuk Asar, Anajrak Aset, Anuk Aset, Anajrak Haru, Anuk Haru. Haru represents higher consciousness, so that's where I start. I appreciate being on this panel, and I appreciate all the dynamic minds that are here and all of the ancestral spirits that surround us. So One Africa, returning to the source, has a powerful meaning because we're returning to the source not just to intellectualize on Africa, we're returning to the source to try to come up with solutions on how we can be one people and resurrect ourselves as a great people again. And so that is what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking that all of us are coming together with ideas for solutions. Okay, we already know what the problem is. Solutions. How do we be one people all over the world throughout the diaspora? We understand that the tentacles of white Western domination is wrapped all around us, no matter where we are in the globe. But Professor Small says something really good that I'm a champion of, and that is culture. Culture is our medicine. So when I come to deliver the best of our culture. Kemet always showed us the best of our culture. All of these great African scholars coming together on the continent and throughout the diaspora are personification of the greatest culture on this planet. We have to give that to the world. And from embracing your culture, economics automatically is embraced. The correct politics automatically is embraced. My art is automatically embraced because that's the essence of our culture. Protecting the planet is automatically being the captain of our own ship. And so if we can teach people how to be, I think one of the things that I know I want to try to talk about in that conference is we have to change the way we think on the planet. We have to begin to think symptomatically. That's how we created all civilization. Not symbolically, not what somebody told us without proving it. Symptomatically, we felt it. We was it. We were it. I am that I am. Okay, so that is what is important at this conference to me, is that we come with solutions. We come to promote our African culture. And we come to show operational unity. And if I quote from Kwame Nkrumah, he said, "We are not Africans because we were born in Africa. We are Africans because Africa was born in us. And so Africans throughout the diaspora have to understand that. Africans in Brazil, Africans in Europe, in Asia, all around, we are one people. A long time ago, I don't know if Professor Small remember this, but we did a conference at my center back in 2010. And one of the things that me and Professor Small talked about is that we had created a giant crystal of the universe. And it got interrupted and somebody shattered that crystal and we got dispersed all around the globe. It's our time and our job here in the age of Aquarius is to gather those pieces of crystals back together and become whole again. So to me, this conference is us becoming whole again. Our culture is our medicine, and we want all the people in the diaspora to come and be a part of this. Come thinking, change the way we think, change this new concept. We are a great and dynamic people. We are the Necharu personified. But we got to believe that. As a warrior, a spiritual warrior, if you don't know you're at war, the percentages of you winning is 0. Not 1%, not 2%, 0. We're at war for our consciousness. We're at war for our spirit, our soul. We're at war for our continent. We're at war for the lives of our children. And so we're coming to this conference as one people, no matter where we are in the diaspora or on the continent, to promote our culture, to promote Ma'at, and to be one. And that will take care of the economics. That will take care of the politics. That will take care of everything else if we are culturally united in Ma'at. Using a different mindset, symptomatic thinking. So we will not be divided by religions. We will not be divided by political persuasion. We come with one agenda. We are one people returning to the motherland and to the HAPI Valley. And I'm so glad we're in Aswan because that's the heart of the black folks in Kemet at this moment still. And so I'm just looking forward to sharing with all these other scholars, sharing with all the people who come throughout the diaspora and to give my contribution. I'd like to say, Amin Ma'at Dua.
Dua. Thank you for that, Mfundishi. Yes, we're going to be in Aswan, Egypt, guys, February 20th through the 28th. It's a 2-day conference. It is we have limited availability, so make sure you go on to icattours.com and put in your deposit. This is a great way to kick off the year. This is going to be monumentous. It's fabulous. It's going to be all of those things. During the day you'll be able to it's still a full rich tour. You're going to be going to a bunch of different places, the museum, like you're going to be all over Egypt. But for 2 days, you will have the awesome opportunity to sit down and listen to all of these esteemed scholars talk about One Africa returning to the source. I really feel like Aswan's going to be vibrating from all of this. This is going to be great. Okay. Thank you, Mfundishi. Thank you. You want to go next? I feel like I'm in school. Like, who want to go next? Dr. Rosalind, Jeffries. Oh wait, did I mute you? I think you muted yours. Wait.
To everyone, it's a pleasure to be here as part of the family and part of those who have been part of my life for so long. Decade after decade, we are growing together and moving together. And so I'm grateful thinking that here is a return. What do we expect? We respect return, we respect renewal, regeneration, we respect resurrection, reparations. That's what we expect. Reparations to ourselves, to come back and to do and make connections with each other. It's such a wonderful opportunity to deal with the spiritual aspect of who we are, because so long we have been caught up in the precariousness of humanism. And humanism has its place. We are all human beings, but that's not all to us. We are superhuman. We have that spiritual self that's connected with outer space and inner space. We may say consciousness. Consciousness is a word that Mfundishi just used, and we understand the con means with. Con means with. And the other word, science, for science, is science. And so it's with knowledge, with wisdom. And that knowledge and wisdom must come from above. It must come from an essence of us that, like the heart soul, the Ba and the Ka, the reaching up to the heights of the heavens, but also the heart soul that's humble like a child. That's the part of us that opens up the spiritual door. And through the humility, we can find ourselves with the supernatural, and then we can resurrect to the heights, all at the same time. And so this is our mission, is to take the humanness that we are, that sometimes is fallible, temporal, and connected with that part that's supernatural. I've been trying to clean up these mounds of stuff that we have in this house. And yesterday I came across an article, and this is the article, and it says, Blacks may have genetic advantage as astronauts. And so who's doing it? It's a white guy that had an exhibition in 1991. IBM on Madison Avenue, New York. I mean, IBM, the center of computers, the center of technology, and that's science. So we look to Kemet and we find, where do we get those concepts? In the pictorials, prehistoric. In the cave art of Tassili, we find floating beings. We find little fine dots, black dots and white dots coming out of the sky. We find that the spirit and the soul had a freedom beyond the boundaries of limitations of flesh. And so in the art of Kemet, we see the same. Remember those beings that are flying in space around what? The symbol, the graphic symbol of the Ankh, meaning life. And so I was writing some stuff too, how do children draw? 2 years old, 3 years old, they make what's called a primal cross, which is a circle that's bisected in the middle. The circle means that I am a soul being come down, and the line between that bisect is the horizon. Is that not the symbol for eternity in Kemet, where you have a solar circle, geometrical circle, and a byline that's beneath it? Is not that the glyph, the shem of the soul carried by Mut? so that I'm interested in the pictorials that I can relate from Kemet, from the Nile, from the father of the Nile to the south, and relate them and find those same kinds of glyphs, not just in childhood of who we are, the inner child that's still there, that has to be nurtured and cared for, but we find those kinds of symbols amongst the Congo, amongst the Bakongo, the Babembe, the Bakwele, the Bakchokwe, the Song, the Twa, the Mbuti, the Enu. And so that those are the things that we look at. We find them in Ghana. The Jhutyms symbol itself is not bisected horizontally, but it's a twice broken circle with a vortex of energy that's like quicksilver energy in the diagonal center of the glyph. So that signs and symbols we want to see as part of the primal essence of who we are, that our genetic structure says that we came from afar. We understand the lectures of Asa Hilliard, who had said that the three stars, which we all know so well, in Orion's belt, is connected with the three stars on the Giza Plateau. And so that we have to, in this age of advanced sciences, where Blacks have taken part in advanced sciences, we know hidden figures, right? Those three astronaut scientific mathematical women. And there's much more in the sciences that we have contributed that we're not yet given the credit for. Charles Mitchell was telling me about Shirley Jackson, the person that does the call waiting. If it was not for Blacks inventing the cell phone, we have been out there in these fields, but we have not been putting all of the information together that we too can understand and feel free enough to say that, yes, the Blacks may have genetic advantage as astronauts. What kind of astronauts? We say in Kemet, through the spirit door. And I want to stop at that point because I know others have things to say but it's just that we're bubbling over with so much putting the pieces together. It's like a huge puzzle of 100 pieces, and we come together to put the pieces in order.
Oh, yes, Mama Day. Guys, if you've got to like and share this video, because we are getting some incredible, we're getting incredible information right now. So it's very important that you like and share and comment on this. We are, for those of you that are just joining us, we have been sitting down and we're talking to some of the presenters that will be presenting in Aswan, Egypt, as part of our One Africa Returning to the Source conference and study tour in 2022. We had the pleasure of having we had Dr. Wade Nobles, Professor James Small, and Mfundishi Jhutyms came on earlier. And thank you. Hi, Brother Asar. I'm so happy you were able. I know you have a short time, so I'm so happy that you're able to join us. We just heard Dr. Rosalind Jeffries give a beautiful response to One Africa. Thank you so much, Mama J. And I'm sorry, Dr. J, I'm gonna just we're gonna skip to Asar really quick because he only has a certain like a little time frame. Is that okay, Dr. J? Oh wait. Oh, I have you muted. I'm sorry.
Well,
Yes.
you and a whole lot of other people around the world have been trying to mute me, but it ain't worked. So that I would want the young brother, brilliant as he is, to be able to go and make his contribution, because so many of us have gotten on these airways and we've scared our people to death. And the people say, how are we going to keep up with all that? These people ain't got no notes. They ain't got nothing. They're speaking from the heart and the mind and the spirit. So our brother will ground us a little bit so that we can be more acceptable to our folks. So yes, brother, go ahead. You've done well. We appreciate you. And so you certainly can step in and take the place of our elders. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. I'm sorry. You just have to.
Rosalind, do you agree? Yes, my wife agrees. I know what's in her heart. She said, yes, let the young brother go.
Wait, you got to unmute. There you go.
I'm sorry. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you, the HAPI team, for inviting me to speak in Aswan, and to be among such a distinguished and powerful panel of presenters. It is truly an honor. And so I will be there learning as well. And I know I have a limited time, but what did you want me to
yes,
say?
I'm sorry. And you know what? And also, family, Asar Imhotep will also be at our HAPI screening that will be in Houston, November 6th. He will be part of the panel discussion along with Dr. Wade Nobles. And so you are going to be the baby at the conference. But I wanted you to talk about One Africa, returning to the source. Like, what does that mean?
Well, that's a number of semesters of conversations. And it really just depends on, what you came to do here personally on Earth and what that will mean to you. And so for me, I will be presenting on the languages of Africa and the relationship between the languages, and especially with the ancient Egyptian. And so that has been one of the tools that I've been using over the years to better understand more so the African mind. And so when I'm talking about returning to the source, I'm talking about returning to an intellectual framework that allowed the human species to live and thrive for millions of years, and that gave birth to certain civilizations and certain spiritual concepts and certain scientific conclusions in things. I want to know what was the motivation, what was the psychology, the ultimate psychology that gave birth to these many different forms of expression. And so it is especially on time, given the colonial history of Africa in terms of recent history, and of course those of us who live in what we call the diaspora. And so for us, it's about capturing, understanding what it means to be human and African, prior to the Arab invasions, the European invasions, and now the economic invasions coming out of Eastern Asia in terms of Africa in this current state. So how did we think? How did we think in terms of love and family? How did we, what was our conceptualization of God and spirit and our relationship to ancestors and the environment that we lived, in? And what did those motivations, how did those motivations inspire the many creative expressions that we see in the artwork, in the intellectual treaties, in the building of monuments and things. So I'm, looking for that psychology. What is that framework, that worldview that inspired these different forms of expression? And so, archaeology is a very, very expensive endeavor, and a lot of our institutions don't have archaeological digs, unlike our good brother brother Browder on the panel, who's probably the only one I know of that has actually done a dig of that nature. And so, but there's many different ways that we can still get archaeological artifacts, and that is through the language. And so the language is the oldest witness of history. And so by learning the tools of historical comparative linguistics, we can go back and reconstruct in the same way that a forensic officer would come in and reconstruct a crime scene. Well, there's been a crime scene, or different crime scenes all across Africa in relationship to murder, theft, and the like. And we're going back to the scenes and trying to reconstruct how everything was prior to the great Ma'afa, or the great Holocaust of enslavement. And so the languages allows for us to go back in time and really grasp what does it mean to be African prior to colonialism, because regardless, it's going to be in the language. And especially with ancient Egypt, because it is the oldest written language and it is the longest written language in history, it has a lot to tell us in terms of comparing with other African languages. And so the blessing of the ancient Egyptians, besides everything else, is that they wrote everything down. And because they wrote down what they were thinking and how they were living in their worldview, it allows us to ground ourselves in history for doing comparative work across the continent. And so that's the discussion and conversation that I hope to have, in February in Egypt with all of you, because all of y'all listening or will be joining us in 2022.
Yeah.
So,
yes. You guys have to put your deposit in. Just put your deposit in and secure your seat, because you're going to be tight when we're like, that's it. We have nothing else. Like when we don't have anything else, you're going to just like, oh, I should have got it. Well, you don't need to do all of that. Just go ahead, go to ICAT Tours. And, we are putting on this event with IKG, which is Professor Browder's entity, which he's had forever and ever and ever, almost as old as me. And that's a long time. So, it's very important to, to like and share this video. But guys, if you're just, even if it's an inkling in your mind, you think you want to do it, please go to ICAT Tours and get your ticket for One Africa Returning to the Source Conference and Study Tour. It is going to be fabulous. Thank you so much, Asar.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Wish I could stay longer, but.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's so funny because it's like I'll ask, people to do things, and then, you guys like tell me yes or no, whatever your time. And then, I'm like, I'll report back to Taiki. Well, they have this amount of time. He's like, wait, hold on. And then you guys just automatically do stuff for Taiki. It's just like, now all of a sudden it's popped up on here. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much, brother.
No problem. All right. Peace and blessings to everyone on the panel. You have a good night.
All right. Okay. So Dr. Leonard Jeffries, are you ready?
I've heard good things about the brother, so I'd be glad to meet him in his various dimensions and forms. But I don't know why you're smiling so diligently with that beautiful smile. Those of us who have not had any sleep for the last couple of days can't even fake a smile.
Let me tell you, I had to just put pots. I had to put a bowl or a pot on each step on our third floor, because the water from the sky, the
Skylight.
yeah, it was just coming on in, just coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is Ida just coming on in. So yeah, but I live on a hill in Harlem. So, you know, the water just rolls on down. I think, yeah, I think Professor Smalls was talking about how Harlem is like the most insulated place in terms of weather to be, because, you know, we're just a lot, you know, we're on a hill and things just kind of roll on down. So, yeah.
Well, certainly I am delighted that you've been able to make a personal pilgrimage to Africa, and then return all excited about continuing this great work. So that I'm glad that, you know, I'm a part of what we're trying to present to our people, to let them know how serious this struggle that we've waged is. And it's not about a TV program or a movie like Wakanda and the Black Panther. It's about the life of the planet and the role that African peoples have played in it lo these many years. And so that's been one of the great things about trying to be a professor of some substance, having sat at the feet of the masters. And you're talking about Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Yosef Ben-Jochannan, who gave us the Nile Valley. You talk about John Jackson, Chancellor Williams. All these brothers had a great awakening, and we were proud to be a part of it, sitting at their feet, our sisters and our brothers. Now we have to pass this torch on to generations coming behind us. And the information is there, the experiences are there. When you mention our brother Tony Browder and his work in terms of the dig with his friends and his family, including his daughter, it's a phenomenal process. And so we're not just talking about the traditional digs or the traditional conferences or the traditional visits to the Nile Valley. These are transformative visits that you cannot be the same. I went for the first time. I forgot when it first was, but every time I think about coming, I say, I need to be there another time, take something. We finally did take almost 1,000 people when we formed ASCAC, the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. And it was an enormous awakening. I was in charge of one plane load, which was under my supervision, and that was the plane load for Air Maroc. And so that was great, because who was there? Dr. Wade Nobles. Who was there? Regent Adelaide Sanford. Who was there? Queen Nzinga, the head of our national organization. Who was there? Naya Makba. So we've had these enormous experiences, and they need to be shared by our people, and they need to be able to have this type of experiences, because they can't take this from you. The fact that we're talking about One Africa and our great movement, well, it's been described by our great leaders effectively as the African Renaissance. There is a One Africa that's economically, politically, and culturally tied to the movement of the human family. But there is a movement now in which various groups and organizations want to have the experience in the Nile Valley, and it has been given a proper name, the African Renaissance. I just have this little booklet here that the Senegalese put out to talk about this process. And there is the imagery that we need to have. The rise of the Black man, no, but the rise of the Black family. The Black man not holding a sword to show his masculinity, or the Black man not holding an instrument of agriculture work, but the Black man holding the future. The child is being held up to the world. And then how is he surviving? He's leaning on his rock, the female principle in the universe. So this is the most significant symbol for me. That it's more significant than anything they can put up in Rio de Janeiro. The Italians sending a symbol to the Catholics in Brazil of the symbol of Jesus, Christ the Redeemer, a wonderful and important part of our world. But when you look deep, and Roz and I have had a chance to go several times to Rio and to continue on up to Maceió and continue on up to the symbolism that they have in the mountains of Brazil when we're talking about Zumbi and the spirit of Zumbi. But this particular symbol, and even Jesus the Redeemer, when one year we were there, they opened up the pedestal, and the pedestal of Jesus the Redeemer, this enormous figure given by the Italian Catholics to the Brazilian Catholics, Jesus the Redeemer is standing on the shrine of the Black Madonna. And so we were able to even purchase images of the shrine that year that we went. And so we have to understand that these traveling experiences are awakening. When we took almost 1,000 people from all over the country, that was an awakening. And we will continue to do that. And there's a symbol of the real deal. And the beautiful thing is that is tied into our knowledge and history of our great ones, including this one, Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, in the this great monument of the male and the female and the child, the family, the sacred family of African peoples, is the work of Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop. And I obtained this because Asar and others were able to have a conference in which they invited Diop to the U.S. And it was very significant because when I met him and talked to him, he said that the awakening would come from the West and bounce back to the East. In other words, the awakening would come from us who are digging deep into this well of knowledge, and we will package it so it will be bounced back to the East. So that's an enormous acknowledgement by this great brother that looked for the knowledge to spread from us once we got in it seriously and had Black studies programs, Black universities, Black holidays, Black publications, Black ceremonies, Black rituals. And so Sheikh Anta Diop's family contributed his great work, and it is all in the statue, the monument of the rebirth and the Renaissance. It's not just a place to go to gawk. It's not just a place to take a ride 16 stories up into the mind of the Black man and look out on the world. The sacred knowledge that we produced and have published and put into organizations and put into experiences, that sacred knowledge is in the monument itself. It has libraries. It has places where the children can organize plays. And I had a chance to go with Mario Beatty and other leaders of our organization up into the mind, take the elevator up 16 stories into the mind of the Black man and look out on the world. And we didn't have to wait for Alex Haley to talk about holding up the child as a tradition coming out of the Gambia. Africans have this tradition and relationship to the universe in all of our cultural formulations. And that's why we've got to begin to appreciate it and make it work for ourselves. A few years ago, they thought they would come up with a National Geographic. And Tony Browder does such a wonderful job on anything that Tony writes and about these things. You have to get put into your catalog of information. Now, there's a beautiful cover of National Geographic. You can't get a better cover. It's the imagery of the Great Pyramids, the Great Pyramid fields located in Nubia, not just a Giza Plateau with the 3 Great Pyramids and the lesser pyramids, but you're talking about hundreds, 300 plus pyramids representing the link between the human family and the divine family. And so the Black pharaohs, they want to limit us to those that were just in Nubia. But no, we have to take advantage of the pyramid consciousness reflecting all of these different levels. I had to jump on your mayor in New York, Mayor Koch, who had wanted to discuss some things with me. And then we finally got together and went down to his office. But I told him I had questions about speaking to him in his office because I had seen newspaper articles where he claims that the Jews had built the pyramids. So I told him, I said, I will not want to meet with you in any dimension unless you're prepared to give my pyramids back. He said, what? I said, yes, I have a picture of you riding on a camel claiming the pyramids. And another picture of Menachem Begin standing before the pyramids after the Camp David meetings with Sadat. And he's talking about the pyramids his ancestors built thousands of years ago. I want my damn pyramids back. And so he said, wow, I got me a doozy here. Let me meet personally with this fellow. He went out to Hong Kong, called back to my office and said, you can have your pyramids back. Let's meet. And he thought he would be able to meet with me and then destroy me in any way that he could. But it wasn't working that way because my baby brother, the martial artist, was working with me and talking with me. And he said, Lenny, if you think it will help the cause for you to go and meet with Koch, you can do it. Regent Sanford said, there's no need to meet with that man. Dr. Clark said, no, he'll twist anything you say. My baby brother said, you can do it because I'm going with you and my aura will protect you. So the Jeffries boys, protected by the baby aura, met Koch and took him down, beat him up badly, but we helped him come out of the scars and whatnot. But he was heavily whipped with the knowledge. And when he finished it, we have it on tape. We have a transcript of it. And when it was finished, he said, we're going to tape this session because he thought he would have some craziness. And when he was finished, his legal partner, Robbins, was in the session. And I called back later to say, we took the books, my brother and I took all of the books and the works. And I wanted to apologize to the elder office partner and said, our blows were for Koch and some of the things that he said. He said, look, I've known him for a lifetime. It was the best thing he needed to get, to have some strong brothers with this knowledge laying it on him. Now we have that on tape, whether you'll like it or not. When we start to put our foundation work together, you'll be able to get some of these things that Dr. J is talking about. And another thing, he talked about spirit. Dr. Clark dragged us everywhere, took us to Los Angeles to challenge the African Studies Association. And a year or so after that, took us to Barranquitas in the mountains of Brazil, of Puerto Rico, so we can map out a strategy on how to deliver this knowledge to our people. Then we went from there to Washington, D.C. and had a conference on the strategy. Then we took it to Jamaica because the Jamaicans had denied Marcus Garvey's books from being sold in Jamaica. Dr. Clark said, we're smuggling these books into Jamaica so we can pass them out to the folks, which we did. And then when we left there, we went on to Trinidad and Tobago. Why? Because the great leader there had banned his own books now that he was the head of state. The knowledge that he put in capitalism and slavery, and they came before Columbus, the prime minister, it was an introduction. He actually taught at Howard University. And so we had to smuggle his books in because the knowledge was too heavy to give to ordinary folks because they would rise up and try to be beyond themselves and link up with this great spirit that we're talking about, that we have to make sure we put in our people's hands. The picture of Sheikh Anta Diop and myself is in the King's Library, the King's Center. And it's significant because for years, none of us could go into the King's Center. We couldn't go on the campus at Morehouse because they thought that we were bringing this African stuff out would shatter their attempt to be a part of the American dream. And so a great mathematician, he was banned because he was too into the African thing. Naim Akbar was banned from the Morehouse campus. The great brother who the best mathematician we can imagine. He was banned. Dr. Ben was banned. Dr. Clark was banned. Dr. Len was banned. I was banned from the Morehouse campus because we were carrying this baggage of knowledge which would destroy and fracture all of this miseducation that has been a part of our reality. But Asa was moved by special spiritual forces. His mother was an evangelist with heavy spiritual powers. His grandfather was so powerful that
Dr. Shabazz.
Dr. Shabazz is the greatest mathematician that has been produced by Black people, and he was banned. Naim Akbar was banned. We all were kept out until Asa worked his magic, his special juice. Asa reached back on that power that his grandfather, who went on to Texas to swim across the Mississippi and to join Asa's grandmother. His mother was so powerful, she went into any of the big churches in St. Louis. And when she walked in, the spiritual thing stopped because the real spirit had arrived. And now we can begin to do serious things. Minnie, the evangelist. Asa comes out of very powerful processing of understanding power. And he was able to share it like nobody else. And so he took the mantle of disgrace off of us to allow us to have Morehouse stand at the head of the class and dealing with this knowledge. He was the one that said, we've got to tap into this knowledge. And so they took all those bans off of us. And they had this great conference around Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop. And this portrait put Diop in the memorial center at the great chapel there. And so even the Dr. Carter, the dean, who was glad to block us, now he welcomed us. Anybody with an African understanding, Dr. Carter said, we will allow them. Asa had worked his magic. So this is what we got to understand. We're not dealing with these personal circumstances, situations, personal disagreements, and wars. We're dealing with spiritual warfare, which is available in our hands. The image of these pharaohs, the image of this great man, Sheikh Anta Diop, and the great women. Sheikh Anta Diop couldn't stand if it wasn't for the women that raised him. He couldn't stand if it wasn't for the great family that protected him. The family of Alioune Diop, his elder, and Madame Diop, who set up Presence Africaine, which published so many of Diop's books and other books, etc. It was the battlefield fortress in Paris that allowed Sheikh Anta Diop to do all the great things he did and allow us to tap into it with him. He was waiting for me to come in from Switzerland, and I made a grave mistake. I don't make many. I certainly made the right ones when I found a partner for life who's there to protect me, throw her spiritual shield over me. And so I've been blessed. And all my brothers and cousins have been in this vein. But Sheikh Anta Diop and his relationship to Alioune Diop should be studied by all of us. And when you're talking about Alioune, you got to put Madame Diop in the mix. It was a couple that led the way to help him get his dissertation, that has been doing all the publications from the French-speaking Africans. And they have an appreciation of us. It was always a pleasure to meet with them and sit down and talk about the publications and how this struggle should. Civilization and barbarism, which was his great weapon to blow away the insecurities of white folks who put up all these lies and whatnot. When you deal with Sheikh Anta Diop and that great work, it was Alioune who puts a dedication to his great brother. I've never heard another man speak to another man like that. It was more than just men speaking. It was spiritual connections, bonding again, giving us the power. And when I had a chance to meet personally with Sheikh Anta Diop, it didn't work because I came in from Switzerland where I was studying Diop and translating the book and all this and that. And I came into, it was snowing and it was a mess. And so I was supposed to meet him at the Presence Africaine office, but I made a mistake. I don't make many, but this was a mistake. You don't take a cab in from the airport on the snow. If you had any sense, you take the metro, the rail system that will take you right into the heart of Paris. Diop waited in President African's outer door for hours until I finally got there, waiting for me for hours with his oldest son, Mbaki. And Mbaki said he was just talking about so much growing in the West, and it was going to help the African continent. And so I finally did. Can you imagine this great man waiting for me? That just doesn't happen. There's a special relationship, the source of which is what we can tap into, continue great work. So look, I finished my few words. I'm sorry I couldn't get at the heart of what I wanted to say, but the struggle continues. And we're on a great course of success. Power to our people and the generations to come.
Thank you, Dr. Jeffries. And I think you were able to say it.
Well, if I get a little bit of rest and stuff like that, I could be a little bit more. But at any rate, I'm glad that you are in the middle of us with your spirit. You're helping my wife complete her great work. So I don't know, what can we do for you except to join you in the Nile Valley and make sure we're right there so that you can see us all growing together.
Yes, I'm telling you, it's going to be it's going to be wonderful.
And let your young men see this tape that you put together with us. And if they don't react properly, I'll take my African whip. You saw that, the slave whip that I had.
They don't want to see
students.
Yeah. And you know what, Professor Browder, you're looking like what? Yeah, it's a real whip. And no, my kids don't want to see the whip anymore, but they're going to be there in Kemet.
Okay.
Listen, guys, they're going to be there. And peace to King Simon. He said hello. He's in the chat. If you guys, I'm telling you, if you have not, the first 2 packages have already sold out. Okay. And this is our last package we have from February 20th through to the 28th. The One Africa returning to the Source Conference and Study Tour, Egypt 2022. So go to ICAD Tours, put your deposit in, and come. It's a nice price point, and you can make it happen. We are leaving in February, and it's a 2-day conference that you get a free, up front and close with these elders. So it's going to be powerful. So Professor Browder, you got a couple questions you have to ask. I mean, you're going to have to talk about just, when you were thinking about this name. And for you guys that don't know, Professor Browder, IKG, how long has IKG been in existence?
IKG's birthday will be 40th birthday will be in February, this coming February.
Okay.
So it's about 10 years younger than you, my dear.
You have 10 years. 11. I just had a birthday.
You did.
Last week. But wow, that's awesome. One of our oldest institutions. That's what's up. So talk to us about this name and what it means to you and all that good stuff. Sure.
Well, let me just give you a little bit of context and build on what my brother Lenny just referenced when he talked about Sheikh Jhutyms and Asar bringing was initially to have brought Sheikh Jhutyms to Atlanta for the Nile Valley Conference, which was held in September of 1984. Jacques was to be the keynote speaker, but he had difficulties with his plane and wasn't able to attend. But they did bring him to Atlanta the following January, I believe, where he stayed in the United States for 10 days. It was his only visit to the United States. He was awarded a honorary PhD, his only honorary PhD. The 4 days that I spent at that Nile Valley Conference in September 1984 convinced me that that was the work that I wanted to dedicate my life to. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be like those people. I met Finch for the first time. I met Naeem for the first time, and a wonderful selection of scholars. And one of my commitments was to bring these scholars to Washington, D.C., to introduce them to the Washington, D.C. community. So in 1987, we initiated a lecture series where I had the pleasure, the honor of bringing some of our foremost scholars to DC within a 5-year period. And the title of our event, which was held every month for 5 years, was called Free Your Mind, Return to the Source. Mm-hmm. And that name came from Asa Hilliard, who was our first speaker Memorial Day 1987. And Asa referenced this work by Amir Gabral called Return to the Source, Selected Speeches. Mm-hmm. So when I was talking with Taki about this conference, I was talking with Taki several months ago and said how wonderful it would be to do another Nile Valley conference. We did the first one. The first one was done in 84, as I said, and then 25 years later, Charles Finch and Asa's daughter organized the second Nile Valley conference, the 25th year anniversary. And myself and a host of other scholars presented there. And so talking with Taki, I said how wonderful it would be to do another Nile Valley type conference. And so Taki came up with the idea of One Africa. And as we just process what we envision this conference being, I said, well, yeah, One Africa, I mean, that's a nice start, but it still doesn't capture the essence of what this event needs to be about. One Africa, and as Brother Wade said, the African people are scattered all over the world, all over the continent. And so it's about coming back to Africa in Aswan and returning to the source of it all. The Nile Valley, which begins up south in Uganda, is the source of the longest river in the world and the source of the most sustained cultural accomplishments of any people on the earth. So we want to go to the source in order to reconstitute one African consciousness or one African spirit. So that's the essence from which the theme of this conference emerged, and from the way that it's shaping up with Taki told me yesterday that the cruise is sold out. So you're adding another date and another date. So it's going to be a grand gathering, similar to the spirit of the ASCAC conference that Dr. Jeffries spoke about, where over 1,000 Africans converged on Egypt. And what I remember, I wasn't there for that event, but what I remember that came out of that event was, as a consequence of almost 1,000 African Americans or Africans from around the diaspora coming to Egypt, it literally shifted the consciousness of the Nubians, who had never seen that many Black folk with money and power in their lives. It also affected the Egyptian tourism industry, which then realized that they needed to start marketing Egypt to people of African ancestry, not just Europeans. So we had a profound impact then, and we're about to have an even greater impact next year with the One Africa conference. And so if we think in terms of the role that we're playing, the role that we're playing in helping to reconstitute the consciousness of African people, the intergenerational consciousness of African people, then I see this upcoming conference in February as an opportunity for us to go back home, to return to the source and tap into that ancestral spirit that has been waiting for African people with a properly tuned consciousness to come home, so that these ancestors can then pour themselves into us. And then when we come back home with this energized spirit, we will transform our world wherever we are. So part of a larger divine plan that we're all fortunate to have a role to play in. And I trust that those people who will be coming will understand the seriousness of what is about to unfold. And I'll close with this statement. We're very clear. Anyone who has lived in America more than 50 years should be able to recognize the fact that America is on her last legs. America is disintegrating right before our very eyes. There is fighting among white folk, they're fighting among the Republicans, fighting among the Democrats and the Republicans. And then Mother Nature is saying, you all have disrespected me too long, for far too long. And so I'm going to come in and show you all what it means to run a nation. to run a world, to run a planet. And so Mother Nature is going to hold sway. So when the shift occurs, and it's happening right now, when the shift fully occurs, it's going to be important that people are prepared to know what to do and when to do it. And the best way that will happen is if we are guided by our spiritual ancestors. And the best way that we can get the best guidance is to go home, to return to the source and allow ourselves to be the instruments of transformation that will be responsible for building a new world with a new consciousness. So that's what I see coming out of this event in 2022. And it's going to shift our perception of reality as we have never seen it in our lifetime. So I'm really pleased to be a part of this process. I'm pleased that your children will be there. My daughter will be there. And we will be preparing the next generation. We'll be preparing our replacements, because as the sudden and unexpected passing of Runoko Rashidi has taught us that no one stays forever, but we have a responsibility to prepare our replacements and to do as Runoko suggested that we do. We be prepared to pass the baton to those who are coming behind us. So this is a perfect opportunity for those attending the conference to be energized and to return home with the baton in hand that they will pass to those who come behind them. So thank you for this opportunity, my sister, and I look forward to doing what you all will instruct me and allow me to do in February.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you, Professor Browder. You know, you mentioned something that I didn't even think about. It's, you know, when you talked about this, the shift of just people seeing us, you know, and I know that when I go there and I see other, you know, Black people walking around, I'm always like, hi, hey, you know, it's so this is going to be magnificent, you know. Yes, thank you. And tell Lance's hi.
Sure will.
All right. Family, listen, you heard it from all of most of the presenters that will be on stage in February. You know, it's very important for you guys to get your put your deposits in, because you know the first 2 packages are sold out. And we have well over 100 people already. And I'm just saying, if you want to be part of this, you've got to go to ICAT Tours now. Put your deposit in. It's $300. And you know, and work on getting your trip paid off, because it is going to be magnificent. I want to thank you know, thank the panel that is still here. You know, thank you guys for you know, just putting in the work and having the baton for us to carry. So I just thank you guys so very much. And Dr. J, you can go back and do the work you were saying, you know, the water, whatever you're doing over there. All right. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome. Everybody stay safe now.
Yeah.
Peace.
All right now.
Absolutely.
Peace.
Okay. Bye-bye, Dr. Rosalind Jeffries.
Well, y'all will be seeing each other soon. So
Yes, next week.
yes.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, family. All right. So listen, you've heard from everybody. We had Dr. Wade Nobles, Asar Imhotep, Dr. Rosalind and Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor James Small, Mfundishi Jhutyms. They will all be present on this pilgrimage to Egypt in February 2022. The only package we have left leaves, and I'm going to put it up here so that everybody can see it, because it's important that you guys, you know, you get this visual and that you understand. You know, I really like what Professor Browder added to the conversation. Right there. You want to go to ICAT Tours. Those are the dates, February 20th through the 28th. And that includes the 2-day conference, which is One Africa Returning to the Source conference and study tour. It is going to be fabulous. And you know, like he's talking about the vibration, the, you know, how this is going to transform us. And it just in getting prepared for this trip and talking to all of you, it is definitely a transforming event. So please, 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 guys, go to ICAT Tours and put in your $300. That secures your spot, because after this, there is no more spots. Okay. And when they talked about the 1,000 people that Dr. J and Professor Small, you know, brought over to Kemet with Dr. Ben, you know, this is another time that you have a chance to be part of it if you wasn't a part of that event then. So it is very obtainable. ICATtours.com. Get your tickets. Okay, fam. I want to thank, you know, again, I want to thank the esteemed elders for all coming on. And I thank you guys for being in the house. I want to just give some quick shout outs, because we had some people join us late. I see Nafisa, Chad, Nubai was there, and my girl, Michelle, King Simon, Dennis. Thank you guys for, you know, being always coming through. Please like and share this video. Okay. Everybody was up on here. We had everybody today. We were only missing one panel member. That was Dr. Solange Ashby. She was tied up doing something else, but she will be at that conference. And we are adding more people, more presenters. So ICAT Tours is scrolling down at the bottom. Get your tickets. You will not want to miss this event. So I will close with my favorite closing, which I actually took from Professor Small, which is peace and blessings.
I don't know what we can talk about in this nation without talking about white superiority, honestly.
Who defines the meaning of God also defines the relationship between economy and God.
African Americans spent $1.3 trillion last year, making us the 16th wealthiest nation in the world. Why have we not turned those riches into wealth to develop our community?